Good morning, folks. Ooh, that's a weird echo. So I got a new mic today, and it's very loud, so we're going to fix that real quick. Bring the gain on that down. Get the gate back under control. Get the level under control. So a couple things new today. We're going to do something a little different today than I've been doing. I rearranged everything on the in the Ableton Live setup, so I can't find anything, because let's just break things that worked really well. But what the heck, it's Jamuary. We're jamming, and so you can see I'm reaching over to the mixer to turn down the input gain on this mic. There we go. Today we got a new drone. That's for Andy. New mic. Also, Andy's suggestion. I went to because I added a new camera. So we now have this view of the analog world, the Take 5 and the PolyBrute. And the problem with the mic that I was using, which is a mic that I really, really like, which is this currently out of focus Electro Voice RE16. The problem with that is that if I turn around to move over to play or work on the PolyBrute or the Take 5, you won't be able to hear if I talk. And so Andy suggested wisely that I go to another mic that stays closer to my mouth as I move around. I don't really care for lavaliers because every time I move, the cable moves and it makes a noise. So what I've done is I have excellent lavaliers, being in the broadcast business for my day job. But what I ended up doing was I had bought this new headset, and I was hoping the mic that's on it would work well. It's actually terrible. So what I've done is taken a broadcast lavalier mic, and I've kind of taped it to the stock where the inbuilt mic is, and now I have a mic that follows me around. So we won't do any of that. If you've checked in the last couple days, you've been familiar with the bass line that's running. I love this bass line. But we've been using it for a couple of days now, so we're going to have to break that. Today is going to be a lot of experimentation. We'll see just how many things we can break and really screw up, and hopefully put something back together by the end that is not horrible. So got a couple, as I said, I got a couple of drones. I got a new one. Andy, I think this one's neat. I just discovered this one. It's software, of course, because that's how I roll. But let's see if I can get it up here so you can see the graphical representation of this thing is really cool. Get it up on screen. There it is. And I'll show you that. It's a synth in reactor, and it does all kinds of weird stuff. Let's bring everything else out, and or down a lot anyway. And it does some really neat background drone kind of noises. Hey Luke, welcome. I'm breaking things today. So Andy, this is, you do have that. Okay, yeah, it's pretty cool. I was goofing around last night and found this one. Figured we'll add it to the mix. And I found that I can actually record all those knob moves into the sequence too if I want to. So that's pretty fun. So let's start breaking stuff. And like I said, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to break that bass line. As much as I love it, we're gonna see what we can do to screw it up. So the bass line is generated in Stepic as it is, and so here it's running here. And I'll freely admit that I absolutely love doing random stuff in Stepic. And most of this was generated, there's some discussion last night on the Discord, most of this was generated randomly and then I tweaked it. The trick here is I'm running 4 presets in a loop. And so you'll see if you look up here, you'll see it stepping through the sequences. So this is one and it runs a couple of times. Another one runs once, this one runs several times, or this one runs several times. And the others just used to transition between them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to re-randomize the sequences or the presets as we go through. I'm not going to change the rhythm pattern any, or at least not on purpose. I'm just going to change the notes that are being played to start with. Play this with a couple of times. So that one's re-randomized. That one's re-randomized. That one's re-randomized. And then I'm going to go through real quick because there's some octave jumps here now that are kind of awkward. Let's take them out. Actually, I'm going to bring a couple of them down. Okay, there's a couple of notes that are too high, for sure. Let's pull them back down in line. So I've got all this scale locked to D natural minor. We're going to change that to day 2 if I get around to it. Probably move it to something else, a different chord center. All right, we'll work with that for a while. It's not as cool, but it's not bad. Actually, this section in of itself is pretty nice. This one. It's not too bad. All right, we'll leave that alone for a while. And then I've got, as I said, the noise drone, which you've been hearing. And then we've also got this other drone. Let's get over to that. And this one is outside of the world of Complete Control, the Native Instruments Complete Control. So we're going to have to edit it manually, which is fine. So this is a Yuhi synth called Podolski, and I just some of theirs don't play as well in the Complete Control environment as I would like, but so this is just running a sequence in a looping sequence in Ableton. Let's just change a few things here and there. Ooh, don't like that vibrato up. Oh, absolutely. You know, and I actually have bought in, talking about Podolski being a nice free synth, it really is. I actually really like a lot of the Yuhi stuff. I've recently picked up Diva and Hive. I haven't had a whole lot of time to play with Hive yet. Diva is really pretty cool, but it does tend to be a little processor intensive. This is relatively light and gets some nice sounds out. Flat. That's playing against something awkward. That's fine. We'll leave it. Zebralette is kind of a weird install. You actually have to install now the full version, even though you don't license it, and it kind of gets a little weird. I got a little trouble with that on another machine, so, making it work right. It's I don't even know if it's on this machine yet. I generally test things elsewhere before they come to the production machine. It caused a lot of confusion, and I broke it twice. And Pink Panther. Ba-doom, ba-doom, boom, boom. Yeah, better not go too far with that. Someone will be all over me. All right. Start this plan. One thing interesting about Yuhi, if you were a reader of a computer music magazine back in the day, most or many of the free synths and software that the folks at Future Music Publishing featured in the magazines were Yuhi products. Some of them you can still get from the Yuhi website. Others you can find on old CDs or old CD-ROMs from the magazine if you have them. Andy, is there still a print version of that? Do you know of Computer Music Magazine? I'd love to start getting it again if there is. It also appears that Donna is doing a Zoom meeting again this morning. Our data rate here is way low. One thing I discovered, we were having some stream problems last night, and the data rate had dropped, and we're caching problems, and there was a lot of glitching on the stream. The recorded what was captured by YouTube was spot on. So fortunately, I didn't have to re-upload. Haven't had a hard copy for years. Hey, Wabbit, welcome. How much precip did you get down there last night, or yesterday, or last night? Call of Duty. Now, Donna is an aspiring author, and she hangs out in a lot of writing groups. Still snowing to this. Oh, it's up. That's up north. So, Luke, what are you looking at? A total of 5 or 6 inches? Nine-ish. Wow. Rayder Rich in the house. Today's stream's a little different than the others have been. I'm breaking things and fixing things. I wouldn't mind the snow so much, Andy, if people around here knew how to drive. Unfortunately, people here don't know how to drive when the weather is good, and so when the weather gets bad, it's like a demolition derby. Okay, let's turn this guy down just a touch. This form synth in Native Instruments Komplete is interesting. Synth sledding, there we go. It's an interesting synth, but it's not, the user interface is not the best thought out for an NI product. I've got controls here for spectrum, sound, and sound. Which is kind of an on the main panel. Now, if I go into, if I'm using the keyboard, the Komplete Control keyboard, I get access to some more stuff, but and it's a little better defined. But just the concept of the main thing that you're confronted with, if you're using it as a plug-in, is these controls that don't really tell you a lot about what's going on. It's a little disconcerting. Something I can play over. Time for the new camera angle, yay. Little bit of a blue note there. problem with this arrangement is I can't see the chat when I'm over there. So I have to rig up some additional monitoring for that. Let's see. Rather have a toilet where there must have been a convo going here that I missed. Would rather build a toilet where your gear is, huh? And a fridge. I do want a fridge. I do want to put a mini fridge in here. Let's see. Brought in hot chocolate milk and cookies. Hot chocolate. As I sip on my poison. Snow Day comfort food. Snow Day comfort food here today will be leftover pizza. Yeah, there's a keeping up with. I'm reading backwards through the chat. Yeah, keeping up with the everything going on in Jamuary this year has been crazy. There seems to be a lot more of it this year than there was last year. There seems to be a lot more people participating, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I like the shirt. A double joke there, yes. And no, capacitance is not also futile. Capacitance is a measure of how much futility you can put up with. I'm trying to get the problem with this new mic setup is that is a very delicate cable. I mean, this is the cable for the lav mic, and it's down on the parts of it are down on the floor, and I don't want to roll over it with the chair wheels, because that will be the end of that. And the mic that I have is well, replacing that cable is problematic. I have a couple of spare cables, but it's not a fun job soldering into a mic element that's about the size of a pea. Cable is yeah. So the interesting thing about this, the mic that I'm using, the headset mic that I'm using right now, or the mic that I'm using on my headset, because it's not really the one that came with the headset. This is how I'm holding it. It's a Sony microphone. It's used heavily in broadcast. If you watch TV news at all and you see a lapel mic, it's probably this mic. It's been on the market and still available for 35, 40 years, and it's one of the de facto standards in broadcast. And the abuse that they are able to take is impressive. But no sense pushing it any further than necessary. The cables do eventually die, and I only have one of these particular mics. I've got the previous standard. I've got a bunch of those as well, and I don't, as a rule, I don't like headset microphones or lavalier microphones. As I said earlier, lavalier microphones, every time I move, the cable rustles and you hear that on the mic. I don't like headset microphones because you can't get away from them. So if I burp or something like that while the mic's up, or, you're going to hear it. And so that means I still need to get a cough switch. I need to get one of those anyway. And I much, as I said earlier too, much prefer using my my EV RE16 if I'm not moving around. It's been doing a great job of picking up unless I turn my back on the mic. It's actually a change. I was using a different mic prior, but this one does it pretty well. Mic needs to be a maximum of 5 centimeters, so it sounds great. always handle. New hate headsets. My next EP. Okay, so now we've got 3 EPs. We've got Let It Snow. What was the other one? Let It. Oh shoot, I forgot. Had it in my brain. I've got it written down, so it's okay. Let It Snow. Let It. Oh shoot, what was it, Wabbit? Oh yeah, let it crypto. Let it crypto. That's it. And now hate headsets. So burn all cryptos. Yes. Baking in progress, and I can tell you I'm sure that's going to be. You're going to have a great lunch dinner today. I'm sure. Let's make some music. I'll play the take 5 from here. Hey, a blue note. Nothing really wrong with Taylor Swift. She's a lot more popular than I am. Taylor Swift is a lot cuter than I am, too. Yeah, Luke, I do. I really dig that bass pattern. So what I did, though, early on, I don't know if you were here when I did it or not, I changed up the notes, but I kept the rhythm mostly because that vibe, that groove, I dig it. So the bass is, how is the bass made? Well, let's take a look. It is done in Stepic. So let me get Stepic up on the screen. And click on that. Click on the right track. There we go. Push that, push that. So it's a series of 4 presets in Stepic that I'm cycling through. Some of the notes are randomized, and some of the actually the pattern, the note pattern itself, I build with randoms, and then I'll adjust if something's out of whack. I've got a few notes within sequences that are random within scale, and I've got it locked to D natural minor again. I can go through, for instance, I probably will change a couple. You can see this one here's a random note. That's a random note if it ever gets played. Random notes here and here. Let's get some random notes here. And basically it's cycling through the 4 presets, the 4 preset patterns. It'll play one pattern for a certain amount of time, and then it'll play the next one, the next one, the next one. Hi, Sarah. So that's how the bass is done. Because I'm not a bass player, and it actually does a pretty good job of coming up with interesting bass patterns, or interesting any patterns. All 3 of the loops, the bass and loop 1 and loop 2, which one's being played by the. Actually, I think that's. Let me not lie. Actually, one of the other loops is Stepic, and the other loop is a sequence. So that's the gist of how the underpinnings of all this go. And then the 2 drones are just doing whatever they're doing. So that's it. So that's how I do the bass patterns. I don't play bass. I can write a bass pattern if I feel like going to the work. And I've done some decent ones in the past, but it's very quick to get an idea and then develop the idea. And it's possible too with, now that a couple 3 nights ago, when I first started dealing with Stepic again, I ran into a problem where when I changed from one instance to another across tracks, I'd have the presets from the previous track in the instance that I was trying to do for another track. And so it wasn't a huge deal. I could just use other presets in that particular track, but it was a little disconcerting and a little confusing. And after some discussions, it turns out that I'm sure that I did something wrong. I just don't remember doing it in copying the instance from one track to another instead of loading a new instance. Because since I've made triple sure that I'm loading a new instance as opposed to copying a track, the problem has gone away and Stepic has worked flawlessly for me. So that's the bass loop in a nutshell. And Stepic is a very cool thing, especially like the Metropolix as an example. I can set a pattern, and I can say like the one pattern there is 16 steps, and I've got some shorter ones in there, but I can go in on the fly and change the number of steps in a pattern after I've already made after I've made the pattern, I can change the number of steps. So, and it can control other CCs, or if it were akin to modular, CVs as well. You can lock to a scale. You can change the scale. It will do the thing where it will remodulate the scale, or the key, based on note input. I have not figured out how to make it change the scale, but I'm sure it can be done somehow. It's a pretty smart piece of software. And so that opens up the possibility of sequencing the sequencer, either using a pattern in or using a MIDI clip in Ableton, or an instance of another sequencer controlling the sequencer. And that's some really cool kinds of stuff to do. Something I did many years ago on a Moog modular when I was fooling around with that. The one that I had access to had two sequencers, and I used one at a different rate to alter the root of the second one, and the second one ultimately played the oscillators. So that's kind of a cool thing to be able to do, and I can do that within here. I've experimented with it. I haven't turned it on yet and actually used it anything. Maybe during the week, while I'm fooling around for the Jamuary stuff, I'll play with a lot of that. So let's see what else is going on. Yeah, I don't know if Taylor's got a shirt like this. She might. We just may never have seen it. Actually, I don't think she believes that anything is futile. She's if she sets her mind to something, I think it happens for her, and I admire her a lot for that. And Luke, the bass tone itself is in let's get that up here. The bass tone itself is in a Native Instruments instrument called Modular Icons. And let's see if I can drive it from here. Actually, probably not. So there's two voices. It's a basically a two oscillator synth. Does all the things. There's more on screen than there is on the controller. So that's all I'm using for the synth. Nothing, or for the bass. Nothing really fancy. Good luck, Rich. Hopefully we'll see you on the other side. Rich has been having some PC issues, and so hopefully he's getting that squared away. So anyway, that's pretty much the setup and for this. I've got that going. If I go to the left, we've got form making its noise. FM8 is in the background loop, and then this guy, which I discovered, this thing is pretty cool. So I think I'll play some more. It's interesting. You mentioned, Andy, a different mood today, and it's interesting. I'm in the same key basically as I've been in the last couple, 3-4 days, and a lot of times, the key and the scale will dictate a mood. But it's interesting too how much different you can make a mood, even when you're playing the same notes, or the same keys. Today ended up, I think, with a little more of just that little slight change in the bass sequence with the notes being played. Kind of sort of added a little Latin vibe to the rhythm, which is kind of an interesting twist. I think by now I learned that F sharp just does not work in this one. looks like I've been doing this for about an hour. Let me catch up on the chat, and then we'll probably wind this thing down. Let's see. Easy Bake Synth Oven. Yeah, it's been 7 hours. Yeah, it should be warmed up and stable by now, I would think. The synth below the Take 5 is an Arturia PolyBrute. And I didn't intend to buy a PolyBrute. But I'm very happy that I did. It's really a cool... It's really a cool machine, and one thing that it can do, unlike a lot of synths, you can have a lot of synths let you have 2 layers to a patch, and you can switch between them, or you can fade between the 2 layers. The PolyBrute will actually do a true morph between. It'll do a true morph. So that was kind of sort of the weirdness that you hear if I do this. So what's happening is it's twist as I slide across that Morphe pad that's at the lower left of the keyboard. That's morphing parameters, and so it's basically turning all the knobs to get from one place to the next. And there's a certain number of them, and there's that it'll change. Things that it can't change is it can't change modulation routings between patches, but it can change modulation levels. And so when you're goofing around in the mod matrix here, or when you have this in mod matrix mode, you can set at each cross point. You can set the level of that modulation amount. And so on one patch, you could have that modulation amount be 100, and the other layer it could be 0. So you can morph those modulations. And you can set up a second modulation that has the same routing to do a different level between the 2, but you run out of mod slots kind of quickly. It doesn't have a huge number of mod slots, despite the wonderful array of LEDs and buttons. The Matrix Brute has a better, larger modulation matrix, but it's only a single layer synth. It's a very cool synth. No, the story behind the Luke says I tripped and my wallet slid and my credit card slid through the thing. The swiped through the till. The deal was that my next synth was supposed to be either a Hydra Synth XL or an Ovation Summit, and my friend and sales rep at Sweetwater said, "GerenM, such a deal I got for you." And I said, "Okay, what's the deal?" And he gave me a price, and it was considerably lower than street price. It was considerably lower than the price on their website. It was a bargain. I mean, an absolute bargain. And I resisted for over a week. And I resisted for over a week, and I said, man, it's just not in my plan. But after hawing and hemming and hawing, and I finally said, you know what, go ahead and send me one. If nothing else, I can probably sell it for at least what I'm paying for it. And I got it, and it showed up, and it's huge. I mean, it's a beast. It weighs far more than anything I wanted to own again. It's like 40 pounds. I mean, it's a monstrous machine. But I started fooling with it, and absolutely fell in love with it. And you know, the deal is that one of the things I've learned over the 17 years that I've been working with the same sales rep at Sweetwater is if he tells me that there's something that I probably should have, it's probably the thing that I should have. And I should just go ahead and do what he says and get out the credit card and say, yes, send one over. He has never steered me wrong. And that's, you know, unlike other sales reps that I have at other locations. I mean, they've talked me into things that, is Luke my sales rep at Sweetwater? No, I'll tell you, my rep at Sweetwater is Carson McLean. He is a stand-up guy. He's a synth nerd like us, and his musical tastes tend to be a little more along the lines of EDM, techno, that kind of stuff. But he's a synth nerd. He's an all-out synth nerd, and you know, he really knows his stuff. Like everyone there, you almost can't be a sales rep there without knowing your stuff. I mean, they take that very seriously. Product knowledge and systems knowledge. I mean, it just, you know, it's top-notch organization. Let's see. I don't think we have reps over here. Well, and I say he's my rep. He's the guy that has been, when you go to and you buy from someplace like Sweetwater, typically you have a sales engineer that once you get into their system, as long as you're buying from them and as long as you're happy with them, you have the same sales engineer through your entire career buying with them. And the idea behind that is that, and what makes that a good thing is that person and their team know what you have. They get to know the kind of things that you're trying to do, the kind of music that you want to make, and they really and so they're looking out for you to some extent. They're also looking out for their commission. I mean, you know, they got to make a living. But the upshot is that if you consistently deal with one salesperson or rep at an establishment, I think you're going to get a better customer experience, and that's kind of the way Sweetwater treats things. I'm certain that Thomann or Andertons have similar kinds of arrangements that you can, and because I know even Guitar Center has personal reps. I almost never shop at Guitar Center, but I have a rep at Guitar Center. I can't say that for the other big establishment that's at least regional to me. Is I deal primarily with one person there, but there's a higher turnover rate there, and you know, only one of the people that's in the synth and keyboard department there has been there for any length of time. So you know, the kind of arrangements that you can get with the Sweetwaters and the Thomanns and I assume Andertons generally make a good buying experience. Now, I did not buy the Take 5 from Carson. I bought that locally. I do like to try and support a local store if I can. So as far as local is concerned, Andy, my closest local goods store is now over an hour drive away. And of course, Sweetwater would be about a 12.5-hour drive for me if I were to drive there. Perfect Circuit is 3,000 miles away from me, roughly. You know, so it's we're pretty spread out here. I had a decent shop in the neighborhood almost. It was one of the reasons I moved to this town. Was there was a really good music store in town, and unfortunately fortunately for him, unfortunately for me, he retired and closed the store down. I shouldn't say the store was bought out by another music store a little further north, and they're not as good a store. I just, they're okay for what they do, but they're just not as good a store. Distances are different depending on where we live. Yeah, so and that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't realize just how big the United States is, and that it's if you're going to drive across the United States, it's and you don't stop. Like a non-stop drive across the states is 25 to 30 hours, depending on where you're going from and to. Maybe more. Like if you're going from southern Florida to northern Washington State, you're probably a week of driving, solid. And a lot of people just don't get that this place is this country is huge. And we're not even a big country. We're not even the biggest country. I mean, there's others that are bigger, but there's vast distances here. And unfortunately, as the local stores get killed by the Amazons of the world, it becomes harder and harder to have a decent relationship with a store. So that's why I guess part of why I keep going back to Sweetwater. I've had a good relationship there for 17 years. Dawson's music. Were they? I think I've at least heard of them. Did they close up completely, or what's the deal with them? So we've got a really great used music store, but again, it's not close to me. It's probably an hour and a half for me to get to the big used music emporium nearby. It's a place called Atomic Music, and it's a really funky, weird place, but you can occasionally find a real gem there. But man, it's funky. That's just. And then there's a chain, a national chain of used music stores called Music Go Round, and here in the States, and they've got a location that's probably 40 minutes from me. And I wander in there every once in a while if I happen to be over on that side of town. I haven't bought anything in there in years, though. They just haven't had anything that has floated my boat. So, the other side of that is, and I say this, I've said this before, and I'm sure I'll say it again, but after I, do something, but presently, I don't think that there's much left for me to buy, at least in the realm of hardware. I've got the PolyBrute, I've got the Take 5. I also, up on the shelf, have a Pro 800. That, for the most part, covers my analog itch. I might like to have something from Moog at some point, but it's not. There's nothing in the Moog world that's in the price range that I'm interested in paying that is calling my name. Not specifically. I've got, but also on the shelf, there's a Micro Freak I'd like to have a MkIII 2S. I'll say that is on my list for one day. But that's a whole different project that revolves around that instrument. I've got a few inexpensive Cobalt pieces. I've got the Craft Synth 2, I've got the Sculpt, and I've got a Cobalt 5S, and yeah, they're okay. The Craft Synth developed a nasty USB noise that it didn't have. Nothing left to buy. Shun the non-believer. Echogenetic, welcome, by the way. Welcome to the stream. You're catching me, unfortunately. I don't know how long you've been here, but unfortunately, you're catching me close to the end. Also unused around here a lot is I used it a couple times early on in the streams for this Jamuary. There's a Korg Wave State and a Korg Op6. The wave state is kind of on the bubble for whether or not it's staying. I do have. Oh, okay, great. I will catch you then on the Discord. Echogenetic. I've got both of those synths, both the wave state and the Op6 in software. I greatly prefer the software version of the wave state to the hardware, and I just, the user interface on the hardware is fairly opaque to me. The Op6, on the other hand, it's the way an FM synth should have been designed from the very beginning, both hardware and software. I mean, it's never going anywhere. Here's the Outcast unclear. Yeah, well, I know. And, you know, I've said that, oh, I don't need to buy anything. And I've said this a couple, 3 times now and end up buying something else. So, you know, who knows? I'm sure that something else will make its way in here at some point. You know, it's the nature of the beast. Unclean. Oh, okay. Typo. Yes, I should be cast out. And that mic gets a little hot. Oh, I see why. There we go. Yeah, I should be cast out, or you know, put on the end of a stake and paraded through the village for all to see, or something like that. Got to go. Okay, Luke. Thanks for stopping by. We'll chat later. Still love Zebra HZ. You know, Zebra is a neat synth, and I don't. I have the free version installed. Oh, not what you meant. Okay, GTGO. I thought that was got to go. Okay, what's GTGO mean in your wife's family? And in Sarah's world. Oh, it's get the gun out. So is that in terms of holding it to your head so that you do buy something, or so that you don't? That's the question with that, because that could go either way. You know, I could say that, you know, not YouTube friendlies. Oh, I don't think that'll cause a problem. I actually had an interesting dive into the YouTube's regulations, I guess, so to speak, on guns, and something like that's probably not going to get any issue. They are pretty explicit though about you know, showing somebody get shot, or, you know, that kind of thing. They do draw the line at that. But there are whole channels on YouTube that are dedicated to guns and ammo and whatnot. So you just have to. There's a line that you just can't cross, and you know, the depiction of somebody getting shot too. If it looks like it came from a video game, they're going to let it fly. If it looks like, if it's too realistic, then they get upset about it. So there's, you know, they understand a lot of stuff. Even the algorithm understands a lot of stuff as far as that goes. So anyway, not too worried about it. And you know, the worst that they do, honestly, they fire a warning shot first, so to speak, and you get the chance to you know, bleep out the offending thing or blur it or whatever you need to do, and you can get your video reinstated. And you know, the other thing is they won't pay me for this video if it's a problem, and I'm not monetized anyway. So you know, I do like to have people stop by and watch my videos and, you know, whatnot, but I don't need to make money from this, at least not this week. You know, next week that may change. You know, who knows? Depends on how business goes. You know, so that's not a big deal. Anyway, we were talking about soft synths, and we were talking about what was the last one we were talking about? Went away. Oh, Zebra. So I haven't fooled much with Zebra. I have it, and so we'll get Zebra out for the next week, and we'll stick that into the streams. What the heck? Because again, you know, my purpose for doing Jamuary this year is to get myself to a point where I'm much more familiar with what I do have. I have a lot of stuff, and I don't use very much of it. And so before I go buying more, I really need to understand what I have. And so that's my goal for the month of January, and Jamuary 24 is to learn what I've got here and actually make effective use of it. So that's it. I think that's going to do it pretty much do it for me for the morning. I've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes now, which is about 20 minutes longer than I'd intended. So I'll play a little bit more music, and we'll call it a morning. Probably about another 5 minutes or so. So thanks to those who came today. Appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm a little worried about Rayder Rich. We haven't seen him come back from rebooting his computer. Hopefully he's back with us or still with us. I'm sure we'll find out in the Discord later how that went. As Luke mentioned earlier, he's got a great Discord server that you access through his Patreon, which is dirt cheap. It's $1 a month. So go find Synth Seeker, and if you're not already, I think everyone who's here now is already on the server. So this is for folks who might see later, who haven't been following, and again for folks who are here later, or even here, if you're, you know, yeah, like I said, Luke, everyone here is already on, so it's for folks who are not here, who may view this or may not view this later. They probably will tune out after about 15 minutes. So anyway, stop on by, join us there. For those who are new here to my channel and watching, would love it if you would subscribe. I do music videos and photography videos and other kinds of things. Yeah, latency is a thing. So it's I do music and photography, and post videos periodically. So subscribe, like it if you like the stream. You can give a thumbs down too. It doesn't bother me that much. I'll just go in the corner and sulk and cry for an hour. And visit my website at GerenM.net. That's always an interesting place, at least to me. I do not have an OnlyFans that I'm talking about. Anyway, so that'll be it. Thanks for stopping by, folks. I'm going to play a few minutes of music and then fade away. So have a good one. Have a great rest of your weekend.